We are here for
Was I
the
muted?
Yeah.
January meeting of BCI. Welcome you all and welcome Liz into the.
I was on I was just
Yes.
remote last time.
Yes.
This is my first in person. Nice to
Okay.
see all of you.
Appreciate.
Some of you I haven't actually.
We have a couple of people on Zoom. Mr. Rishi, hello.
Hello. Hi.
We have- Hello, who is Daniel Guillermo?
Applicants perhaps?
Or, eh? Hi,
And Cindy-
hi, Daniel Guillermo.
Are you here to present an application?
I'm sorry?
Are you here to present an application?
Yes,
Oh,
yes, I
okay.
do.
Okay, we'll get to you in
Yeah,
1 minute.
just let us,
Just
just a
1
few
minute.
procedural things and you'll be number one on the list.
And
And the only one on the list. And so we are here for an abbreviated meeting because of the 3 applications. 2 said they would wait a month. We were supposed to have a presentation by a bid,
Columbus Amsterdam
Columbus.
bid.
but the director or the head of the bid is very sick.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
And we were supposed to have a presentation by the owner or one of the owners of the
Thai market.
Thai market.
Oh, yes.
That's in the building that had that terrible fire,
Oh,
but he's not
Right.
coming.
Yeah, he's too busy. They're still working. on
Yeah.
He
the-
did speak at full board.
he did.
He
Yeah.
did speak.
And we
Didn't
can-
he say there was a deadline of something that he needed to hear from the community board about in the meeting?
Remember.
That's what I
I
recall.
think I remember a deadline.
He wanted help.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just worried that it was something
Yeah.
that was imminent,
Because the
that he
city's gonna
needed us
close
to
them
do
down.
something.
Andrew, you
It's
wanted to say
not
something?
Yeah.
profitable.
No,
Usually-
I've spoken with him and I've been trying to help him. They were waiting, I think this week, it should be happening any day, for access to the building. His insurance company needs to go in and look at the work. And then, there needs to be a determination made whether or not, at least the business, will be able to operate, because I think many of the apartments, people are not gonna be able to move back into, so.
Is that right?
It's a very difficult situation.
Did we understand that, that his restaurant was, relatively undamaged?
He thinks it is, but he has to wait till the insurance people go in and look at it. There's been no access. I guess they had to do something. I forget the technical name. Basically put like a new roof on the building and secure it before, any residents were able to go in and look at their apartments and get their stuff. So, yeah, there's a lot of unanswered questions, and that's all gonna dictate what he can and cannot do and how insurance may or may not help him. So
Right.
I hope so.
I know
Yeah.
it's such a great restaurant too. It really, really, we were just talking about the other night. We were gonna want to, we wanted to order from there.
What's the name of the restaurant? Andrew?
Thai market.
Thai market.
It's my favorite.
Yeah, it's great. And he's been on my radar in case there's a, relocation temporary, I think.
Yeah.
Would help.
I'm reading a text message from Josh. He's having issues with the Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Okay,
Wi-Fi show.
yeah.
There it
it's-
Yeah.
Should we move to adopt the agenda? First, right?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah. All in favor? Second. Yes. All right.
Thank you, Dan.
So now we just have, even though we just have one resolution dependent item on the agenda, we are also very fortunate that we have Seema Reddy with us.
Yes.
And because she's here in the room and we don't have anything else on the agenda, maybe after we listen to this application, we can have a very informal discussion about empty storefronts along Broadway. Nothing is prepared. We weren't expecting this discussion, but it's not very often that we're all in the room together. So I think we should take advantage of that.
Mhm.
So with that said.
Yeah, do you have the address on the?
For the applicant, it is 944 Columbus Avenue. New application request to SLA by Coma Bueno Corp.
And we have Daniel Guillermo here for the application. Is anybody else with you, Mr. Guillermo? Guillermo, am I saying it right?
Definitely someone
Yes.
there helping them.
Yes, okay, thank you. Yes, I am the representative of Como Bueno Court. And they have, I submit the application for them for permanent and the temporary. We have, they used to have license before. So, but we, Como Bueno bought the former Como Bueno restaurant business. And we are submitting this application for them. Now we include full liquor. That used
So
to be,
before you had beer and wine. Before it was just beer and wine.
used to be wine and beer, but now it's,
Right.
we apply for full liquor license.
Got it. Want to tell us a little bit about the restaurant?
It's a
For those
restaurant.
of us who have not been there,
I'm sorry?
for those of us who have not been there. Talk a little bit about the restaurant.
Well, the owner or the manager have a long history in this kind of business. He have been working in restaurant for about 25 years in New York City. And he have a good experience. He's this restaurant is for most of the community that go there to eat. Is a very important in this community. This is a Spanish. I believe this is a Spanish restaurant in the area right now, and they are offering Spanish food, and is a necessity for the area, the restaurant, practically.
Well, I think the rules about live music in a restaurant are
Um,
about.
Just recorded music.
Anybody have a question about this application to now expand it into a full liquor license? From beer and wine? No? No. So
Does
Do you
it,
have any questions?
I just had a question what is Daniel's relationship to the applicant? Are you the attorney or?
I'm the accountant of the business.
Okay,
Okay,
How long has the business been opened? Do you know?
How long?
How long has the business been open?
Well, before, about more than 20 years. And I've been the accountant. I've been the accountant for the business over there for more than 20 years.
Okay,
Wow.
thank you.
And now,
Got it. Okay,
What's the name of the restaurant again?
the name of the restaurant is Como Bueno Court.
yes.
Como Bueno.
Como
Did I say
Bueno
that?
Corp. Como Bueno Corp.
Wait, I thought that's the name of the restaurant. I think that's the name of the.
Oh. Oh, wait, no, there's a
Yeah,
place
it's
called,
doing
Oh, it is,
business
okay.
as TBD, it says.
Oh, okay.
yeah, there's a place called Como Bueno. Good reviews.
all right.
Okay,
Right.
so shall we take a vote? All those in favor of approving this application? 1, 2, 3, committee members, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Dan, you have a vote?
Me? Yeah,
No.
well,
Yes, I'm sorry, I think my screen's frozen. I vote yes.
Yeah.
I think Dan's frozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry,
Dan?
but I vote yes.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so what?
I
we're
don't
gonna
have
do-
text.
we're gonna
Yeah.
just-
Well, it's 7 of us in the room and then Andrew.
8 and
is
then Dan.
8, and then
9. Any opposed? Non-committee board members, SEMA 1. 0.
Seema, you'll move here so you can see.
That's all right. Thank you very much, Senor Guillermo. Good luck. I hope this, that the SLA processes this quickly. You are
Thank you.
welcome, or you're welcome, or the owner's welcome to come to the full board meeting, which is on I have to
February
look at my
3rd.
calendar. February 3rd? Thank you. February 3rd. And please look at the CB7 website for the location of the meeting. I don't think that's been determined yet. All right.
Okay,
Muchas
thank you.
gracias.
Thank you.
Thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
All right,
you.
so,
Margot,
Shared it, Doug.
Yeah, you
I
should,
shared it with you.
Oh, thank you.
yeah,
thank you.
Now,
okay, thank you, bye-bye.
Right.
Okay.
so, that brings to the end, like, any
Business.
formal, any business. So that was a quick formal part of the meeting, but I think Elizabeth has a.
Just the people who were holdovers from last month didn't show up this month either.
I don't know. Well, one of the applicants was Empire. Empire Hotel came
Yes.
to us last month as well. And this month it was supposed to come to us for an alteration, but they've all been postponed to next
Till
month.
next month.
Oh, so they weren't planning to come.
They were on the agenda before, but now they've been postponed to.
Again,
To tomorrow, to next month. Yeah. So I was thinking of, discussing something other than just liquor licenses. So one topic that I think has come up at various points, or since I've been on board, is about the empty storefronts up and down Broadway. I think we're all aware of the problem. The problem gets worse as we go north. And so I was wondering if anybody here, and the floor is open for everybody. If anybody here has any more insights into it, any ideas. I know at one point before Gail became the borough president, before, in her first time, before when she was the council member, she used to talk about a census that she was doing almost, or a survey of storefronts, empty storefronts, and I don't really know what came off that. So any ideas, any insights? I know that you're trying to do a bid uptown, so the floor is open and we're very
We
happy
have a
that
list
Seema
of all
is
the
here.
vacant storefronts between 79th Street, I think, and going up to 110th Street, so.
On Broadway?
What do you,
Or the whole area?
Well,
Broadway,
Broadway.
I mean,
and
no, you
go ahead, please.
Well, go ahead.
The floor is yours, he's the expert, so.
No, this is my work for 20+ years. And so I do specialize in the Upper West, and yeah, I'm working with the efforts to help support the new bid. Should that be successful. Data is really important. I didn't know we were having this discussion. I can share
yeah,
some
we didn't know. either.
empirical data. We just had some year-end data that I can share with you. Actually, some very good news in terms of vacancy decline and average pricing coming down. So there's a lot of good news. The other stuff is that, I mean, I always say if you have a question about a vacancy, like particularly on Upper West Side, ask me, there's a story behind it, for good, bad, or ugly, but usually, sometimes you have vacancies and you'll see a sign in the window, even with my sign, and it actually has been leased, but they haven't got permits yet. So the actual vacancy is very important to know. Sometimes there, like, just to give an example, there's a distinguish, the difference between an empty storefront that has a tenant or is vacant with the capital V. For example, on 89th and 90th and Broadway, where Old Good Things used to be, that space is leased on a long-term lease by Chase Bank. Chase Bank leases all of it, so technically the landlord is getting rent. Chase is looking to sublet that portion that was Old Good Things. So, and it is available, but
It's not vacant.
it's not vacant, right? And like the old Lowe's home improvement store that used to be a food emporium down in the 60s on Broadway. Lowe's is a solvent company. They were paying rent. They decided to close those stores. That store recently was awarded to a supermarket chain. Anyway, I could get into very granular stuff here, but whatever the questions are, I'm here as a resource, and it's what I do every day.
And Barbara too. She has,
Mhm.
My own
Pounded the
feeling
pavement.
is that there's nothing that we can do to help the vacancies on Broadway. It's a shame that we have them, But I do not think that it's either in our purview. I don't think the bids like it. I think they feel that we're, intruding on what they do. They're not really interested. I know, because I'm very friendly with Monica, and I also am friendly with other bid directors. So, but, I mean, we can do whatever we want, obviously independently, but I don't think that there's anything really that is helpful and constructive that we can do that will help vacancies.
Elizabeth.
Well, I don't
Andrew
disagree with
has-
what you're saying. Oh, yeah. I feel like there's sort of a delineation between Broadway and sort of a lot of the big box stores where there are vacancies. And then some of the smaller, like almost sliver places that are like sort of come and go with different, whether it's a cafe or like I know the Honey Store that's right by the museum on Columbus.
Yeah.
Just like opened out of I don't know when, maybe it opened a while ago, but I hadn't been up there in a long time. And I was like, how can this guy, like, who normally is like out on the street selling his honey, suddenly has this like store? And
Right.
I know at one point Gail was like looking at like nonprofits and other things to occupy some of those smaller storefronts. But I almost feel like if the bids are so concerned, if they're more concerned about the bigger square footage stores, I don't know if they're concerned about everything or just the bigger square footage stores, if there's anything we can do with some of the smaller vacancies.
Well, I guess,
And
is
we'll
there,
listen to
oh,
Andrew.
yeah, Andrew Ritchie.
Yeah, thanks. I would just say I think there's an important distinction. I don't know the data, but just from looking around, my sense is that in neighborhoods where there is a bid, the vacancy rate is pretty low. It seems to me in areas where there is no bid, the vacancy rate seems to be higher. So I wouldn't really see a conflict, unless I'm missing something, that bids would have with us as a community board trying to address vacant storefronts that are outside of their, districts. And I think at least because I'm, on Upper Broadway, thankfully, slowly but surely, we are getting some, smaller stores. But I think it's about that all kind of retail diversity is it becomes very tough when there's only one or two small businesses. You really want like clusters because it brings activity. And even something maybe we can think about because there were recent reforms is scaffolding. Silver Moon reopened. And literally in less than a month of them reopening, scaffolding went up. Now, they're fortunate because people love Silver Moon, but if that was just some random new bakery that was opening for the first time that no one knew, it would pose significant challenges. And I'm sure the scaffolding still, does them. So I don't know, we could think about it, but in these areas, that aren't covered by a bid or a merchants association, is there anything that could be done creatively to bring people like, Barbados, like by the way, Jeremy and Yanni's new restaurant is fantastic. And when they finally got the liquor license, after all that stuff, and it was really nice to see, they've been really, I don't want to say all the time, a couple nights, like busy. In January, early in the week, January is historically very slow for restaurants, especially earlier in the week. But I do think about like, what is the other activity in that area that keeps people going there? Because at night, there's not, the coffee shops that do well during the day are closed. The hardware stores are closed. So it's kind of just like that and that little omakase place across the street. There's Sal and Carmine's. But anyways, a lot of the other stuff closes down. So like what other kind of nighttime activity? And it's just bad for the block because it gets dark and you don't feel as comfortable. So anyways, that was just kind of a little bit of a ramble, but I think maybe there's some opportunities to try to, do something to bring attention to it.
Can we hear from Seema if you have any?
One question that I have is, so Gail passed some legislation that affected the size.
Correct.
Exactly,
the-
on Amsterdam.
And
Broadway.
Columbus and Broadway.
Columbus.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Columbus
Yeah.
and.
Affected the size of what?
Yeah, I can speak to
Affected the
this,
stock.
but no, you first and I'll.
I forgot what they're called. They're like, they're zoning districts. They're part of
Yeah.
It's an
zoning.
overlay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This was Gail Brewer's initiative.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so anyway, my question is, was that successful? What do we think of that?
So all I can say is that, I read this article and I think it was the West Side Drag or somewhere. This was during COVID that I read this article when I noticed myself that the stretch of Amsterdam, in the 80s, it was actually thriving during COVID, and a lot of like very small restaurants that came up. And I think the reason for their success was because they are very small. Like maybe they were
Yeah.
larger spaces at one point, but because of these
They're
zoning
cut up,
changes that
yeah.
I think Gail was instrumental in bringing about, like a lot of smaller business owners could take them on, and especially during COVID, when they didn't need the extra overhead of like, a large restaurant where people are coming and sitting in. Like a lot of new restaurants opened up during COVID along Amsterdam. But the main difference between Broadway was that on Broadway, you have these huge spaces, whether it's a 2-3 story PC Richards or, Chase Bank or whatever. So my very big question is like, why can't some sort of similar zoning action be advocated for over there? Is that something that has been thought about?
Well, I mean, were you finished too?
So I'm just asking the question.
Okay,
I
so,
have another
so,
question,
that-
but
so that overlay, so Gail knows very well how I feel about this, and
Yeah.
we've been dealing with this for many, many years
Yeah.
before I was on the board. I do not think it was a good idea. I thought it was very well
What was not a
intended.
good idea to?
The zoning overlay that still does exist. Now, with respect to Gail, because the intentions were always good. I never questioned the intentions, but.
Sorry,
the-
Doug, can you
the-
just explain, or I can, or someone just what it is? It was a,
So
it was a
here's what it is.
limitation of the storefront.
Right, so here's what it is. There, at the time of this legislation, there was a proliferation of big boxes and drugstores, the Dwayne Reeds and
Specifically,
CVS.
drug chains and
And
banks.
So the whole
That's what
idea of
what
this
she
was
objected
that she wanted to not prevent the mollification of the Upper West Side, which I think is a very, very, noble idea. And so the zoning overlay basically says that within a certain grid on Columbus Avenue and Amsterdam Avenue, that storefronts that have not already been combined may not exceed 40 feet. There are exceptions in certain categories like bookstores and grocery stores, but for the most part, if a landlord has, let's say, 2 storefronts and they would like to combine it to accommodate a larger tenant, they were not permitted to do that unless it was already combined. Then for banks there's a 25-foot restriction. For any new banks, cannot exceed 25 feet frontage. That is it for new banks, not grandfathered, right? So one of the problems is that a lot of landlords, first of all, Amsterdam and Columbus historically have a lot of smaller buildings and smaller storefronts. So, I know that, and if Gail's listening to this, forgive me, but I know she's taking credit for it, but really the category of tenants and the size of the buildings were already small. The categories of tenants that were thriving I should say, that were surviving to some degree during COVID were food and beverage and delivery. And so Amsterdam, Columbus kind of did better because again, the category of tenants that were there and the sizes. The problem is that you have some landlords now that would like to combine their spaces, they can't. Or if they have a larger space that is exceeding 40 feet and they think, well, I'd like to break it up because I'd like to accommodate some smaller tenants. The fear from a landlord is if I break it up, I can never put it back together.
Yeah.
And so what I hear in my office, and by the way, now I do work for the largest privately held retail firm in the tri-state area, and we study the categories of tenants. The big shift, we survived 9/11, we survived the great financial crisis, we survived COVID. And of course, e-com is a huge part of the retail sector. So owners and brokers alike have adapted and readapted. So I'll give you an example. I am on the leasing team for the former Century 21, which is on 67th Broadway. That's a 65,000-foot department store. You should know that they were doing terrific. They were doing great.
Mhm.
They just had signed a 10-year extension and they got caught with COVID. Their margins are very tight because it's a discount brand. They were too big to get the PPP and they were too small to survive it. And they were forced into bankruptcy. And it was a disaster. They're still fighting, even though they paid business interruption insurance for years. You know, that's a whole other discussion, but they didn't get paid. So what is happening there now? Now we all know, because this is public information, the ownership there was creative and broke up that space. So now 40,000 feet of the 65,000 was leased to the School Construction Authority, the Department of Education upstairs. And again, public information, part of the ground is going to be a bank on that triangle there. We are still leasing the other parts of it. So that is, you know, they meds and eds, medical and educational and experiential have been categories of tenants that have been doing better, and of course, food and beverage. So the old Gracious Homes, which also failed, that was a 28,000-foot space on 67th Street. That is now NYU Langone, that's medical, right? So obviously school, educational. And then, you know, the type of categories of tenants that are surviving are those that are experiential that you can't recreate with e-commerce. So you have to.
Veterinarians are big. They're
Veterinarians,
everywhere.
that was a
The
huge
pandemic
expansion.
Puppies.
yeah, people had more animals during COVID.
Yeah.
And so, yes, those type of businesses where you have to experience, you can't recreate, your hair salon, nail salon,
Can't buy it online.
fitness, medical, right?
Pilates.
So.
Pilates.
Yeah.
So one example that happened on Columbus Avenue when I was running the bid there was that, and this was Rafe's deal, and he came to me confidentially, but this is years ago now. And where that ugly supermarket is, I think it's on 70.
Pioneer.
Yeah,
Pioneer.
Oh, yeah.
right.
Yeah,
It was really
charming.
the ugliest place on Columbus Avenue, because it was
Yeah.
redone many
Yeah.
years ago, and it's hideous. All right, so Anthropologie came along, the store Anthropologie, and they were dying for that space.
Mhm.
Really?
And they refused to relent and let them take that, they wanted to take that ground floor space, the main floor, and the supermarket. It's owned by the guy who owns the supermarket.
Yes.
He was gonna move downstairs.
Yeah.
To the lower level. They're gonna put in escalators.
Mhm.
And the deal fell through for that reason, because Anthropologie was too large. So it's a shame. And, but I see now with all these medical places that it's convenient because you have to go to the doctor or an urgent care. You can find one not too far away. But it's the same as walking by banks, excuse me.
Yeah.
It's boring.
Mhm.
And the whole idea was to have a streetscape that was exciting. And I think that's why Columbus Avenue, because it's low rise, spaces almost exclusively are very small. So they appeal to the mom and pop, whereas on Broadway and other places, that's not possible.
Mhm.
Could we go
Yeah.
through like what part of the neighborhood, to Andrew's point, I think, what parts of the neighborhood aren't covered by a bid right now?
Broadway, all of Broadway, well, Monica has it up to 70.
Right, so I was just thinking through it, so like if we start at Columbus Circle, right? There's Monica's bid, which goes to 72nd more or less.
70th,
But
70th.
then it goes up Broadway a little bit, yeah, it goes, she has a weird block.
She
like-
has that triangle that's right. in the middle
Yes,
of
and then she
70th,
has a
that's
little
the
bit west, like on Amsterdam, that goes up, but it's, yeah, so large,
That's the Amsterdam.
right,
Okay.
and then your old bid starts at
67th and
Columbus
goes
at
up to
67
82nd.
and goes up to 82nd, so past the museum, and it goes as far west as where? Amsterdam?
It doesn't go west, just mine is.
Okay, so then from 70, so Broadway and Amsterdam, from 72nd north, what is covered there, anything?
No.
No,
And
Okay.
then there's just the Columbus
Right, so the
Amsterdam
bid-
bid.
Right,
Which
which
is
no,
up
which is
north.
up north, right, so the
90
bid
96.
that you are trying to create is covering that space,
Broadway.
Broadway in the
Well,
seventies?
Right now, we're looking at the area from
79th,
89th Street
89th
to
Street.
110th, but that will be cut down. You can't have it that big. It's too much to
okay,
handle.
so roughly
And
between
just Broadway?
89th on the northbound.
Just Broadway or?
Yeah, just Broadway.
So
Yeah.
roughly, so Amsterdam and Broadway in the high eighties down to like the low seventies is basically not covered.
Correct.
And that, so that means a lot of the
Big
big bar and the
on
bars,
Columbus.
on Amsterdam in the eighties, all those bars and restaurants, right?
No bid on Amsterdam
bid.
except starting at 96 and going north.
Right, but I'm
Right,
saying
you're
they're
right.
not covered
Right,
by a bid,
that's right.
South
No.
of there.
right?
They're not.
So
No.
that to me is like the chunk we should
Yeah,
maybe
you know,
want.
it's not hard, it's not easy to start a bid. It's
Right here is not
complicated.
covered by a bid, right?
Right.
What?
Correct.
Yeah.
No.
No, I'm just trying to get a
No,
sense of the
that's right.
geography of
No,
our, like
no.
what we can do in our
Yeah, it's
neighborhood.
not easy.
I mean.
And Barbara, so then, so how far along is this bid process? of yours?
It's
if
really
people-
far along. It's got all the property owners that the city requires. The city
Okay.
requires a million different things. They require a certain percentage of property owners. I don't know if Alex is Alex on? No.
By the way, Josh is having a
Um,
hard time logging in. He was
Yeah.
texting me.
Dan is too, he
Dan
said
is
that,
there.
It's the,
yeah, is he
It's the
back
cell
on?
phone.
Oh, yeah.
We have all the property owners that we need. We also need a certain number of merchants. Surveys went out to all of the merchants in that area that I described, and we've gotten back. As of last week, we were short by about 9, I think, out of a whole lot.
Mhm.
So, and I know the city seems pleased with us so far, but I don't know. And also, once you try to put it into effect, you need to have a certain number of property owners who will say yes to actually taking money out of their pocket every single month and paying an additional tax for the bid. In many instances now, probably most, it's passed along to the merchant. So the
How much
merchant,
is it based on the size of the?
it's usually put into a basic lease, right?
Yeah, I mean, it based, it,
Part of the
in leases, almost all the time. Bids are considered a form of tax,
Yeah.
and most leases are what they call gross leases or modified gross leases, and the percentage gets passed on to the tenants. It's usually, it's either above the base or the actual numbers. Yeah, but there's obviously different, you know this better than anyone, the different bids have different assessments. Anywhere from,
Oh, yeah.
1% to 4%. And it's real money. The question is the juice worth the squeeze, and does it help? I don't think bids ever hurt. The question is, will it result in filling retail vacancies? I don't think so. I mean, but it may help ancillary things, sanitation, security, maybe business to business events, but usually Nicole, Monica, Ralph are asking me what's going on about the retail. It creates a good environment, but I don't know that it helps actually lease stores.
Yeah, I think like there's anchors. I mean, I think you look at areas. I'm just look by me, not to, like the saga of, Metro Theater. But that's like to me an anchor tenant. And once something's there, it allows for additional activity elsewhere that's going to
Yeah.
benefit for it. You have across the street where Urban Outfitters was, that's one of those cases. It was outside of Gale's, storefront zone, but that was a large multi-floor space. And then it has since been carved up. You have one of the speaking of medical places going in there, and then a couple of smaller spaces are still sitting there empty. I don't know what, if any, activities going on there, but certainly if that theater could ever, start and you get open, those would be great places for bars, restaurants, or other types of businesses. You know, it's just you need, in certain areas, I think certain areas need different things. And I guess, Doug knows, how do you market a specific area? Because it's not just
Well,
like,
Don't forget also that Amazon and other places like that have taken away a tremendous amount of retail
Yeah, e-commerce.
business.
Right.
And we used to have clothing shops, for instance, and now we hardly have any of them at all. There's some big boutique shops on Columbus, but there's none really I can think of on Broadway.
Bloomingdale's outlet.
The leasing, when I started in this industry, it was a much more simple process. You put up a sign but right now our leasing efforts have gotten highly sophisticated, highly technical. So we have an entire GIS, a geographic information systems that we do, where we're studying traffic patterns and Placer AI and, you know, when we represent tenants and landlords alike that want to know exactly what are the drivers to an area. Who, you know, the cell phone data, the linger time. And yes, I mean, just like what Andrew just said, there are certain anchors and certain things that help. So obviously, if there's a museum or, and of course, public transportation, if there is access to subways, not only for customers, but also for the employees. Who are the neighboring, what's the co-tenancy, who are the neighboring tenants? Andrew's right, tenants like to be in clusters, you know? And it's gotten very complicated and very sophisticated, but there's a lot of good news. You know, there's been a lot of readapting spaces and thinking around, thinking through. Even the biggest retailers have their online platforms, and they do go back and forth when there is a brick and mortar store, their online presence seems to pick up because they know that products can be returned in store. So retailers have gotten very, very sophisticated.
Dan,
Yeah.
Dan had his.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, really? Go ahead, Dan.
Hello, everybody. Sorry, I have problems with my video. I guess I'm getting affected by this Verizon outage and I had to switch to my phone. I think this is a really useful and important discussion. I just wanted to kind of share an observation from like a global political perspective, and maybe make a suggestion about how we go about this. Obviously, this has been a persistent problem, and there've been a lot of solutions proposed, right? So from what I can understand, the problem is well documented, and there are solutions out there. The real problem is a lack of political will, and in some cases, a lack of capital, right? To address some of these issues, and some of the proposals need investment from the city or the state. And so if we're trying to be an advocate for the community and the folks who are getting squeezed by rents and trying to fill some of these empty storefronts, I think a two-step process of soliciting input about the causes of this, like hearing from individual businesses that have left, and you know, seeing where the common through lines are, and then aligning that with some of the policy proposals that are out there and coming up with a set of recommendations to the city council that would really help our community. And then organizing the bids and other retail interest groups in support of this to lobby the city council and the mayor to take action.
I don't know if you have any specifics, like,
Okay, you could do it, Dan.
if you have any specific,
What-
any specific
Well, I like one
policy,
first step would be to
positions
do
that
like
you
a field hearing, right? Or a series of field hearings.
For what, though? I mean, what are you going to ask them to do?
Yeah.
Is to ask people who've lost their stores to come in and testify about what was the cause, right? To be able to document and see where the patterns are. And then, like I said, align that with whatever proposals that are out there that would best address those common problems.
Yeah,
Well-
I'm not sure if, I'm not sure how to go about getting people
Yeah.
to talk about, you know, once a business shuts down, it shuts down.
Yeah.
Like one of the problems, I don't think we have it anymore, but I remember before the pandemic, we used to have those outdoor enclosed seating areas. And if a business went out of, you know, if a restaurant went out of business, we couldn't even get in touch with the prior tenant to take off that ugly structure, you know? So if you have some ideas about how to get in touch with businesses that have
Don't
gone
brokers
out
know
of.
that
Of
information?
course.
I think this is, I think, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that one of the things, I've been obviously in this space for a very long time. I participated in forums and there was a group called Save Our Stores, and the problem is also there's a lot of urban myths. And one thing is that, you know, the verbiage is really important. I hear people say landlords are keeping stores vacant. I go, wait, what do you mean keeping? I mean, if you see my name on a storefront, there's no one keeping it, because I wouldn't have my name on a storefront from a landlord who doesn't actually want to rent their space. So, and what a lot of people don't see, they will walk down the street and you see an empty store and you see a sign, you assume nothing's going on, but you don't necessarily know how much work is being done behind the scenes between marketing and calls and meetings and conferences and you name it. So one of the myths is that landlords get a tax write-off by keeping their store vacant purposely. That is not true. It's been proven over and over again. And yeah, there's reasons. There's everything from a physical infrastructure to a space. Some old buildings are very column intensive, and someone may love the location, but we physically just can't make it work. A company goes in there and, I was just showing a space in Columbus Avenue to a wonderful tenant just a couple of nights ago. They want to be there. It's a great space, physically won't work. Can't take out the columns. So there's a million reasons, but, and then there's been, this, proposal about commercial rent control. I really caution against that. I think that,
Horrible. That, I mean, landlords have a right to make a living too.
but it,
And can you imagine what would happen to those buildings if in fact they had commercial rent control? They would stop doing any kind of work on them whatsoever. It would be a disaster.
So,
scaffolding,
yeah, scaffolding.
Well, Doug,
Mhm.
leaving aside the question whether it's urban myth or not, I mean,
It
I've
is.
heard anecdotally, right, that some landlords will not, when they raise the rent, they lose their tenant, and there's a demand problem because the asking price is too high, right? So logic would dictate if they're not getting people to take the space at the rent they're asking, they would lower what they're asking price.
There's a lot of, but there's a lot of covenants in banks, a lot of people, there's debt, and you can't reduce, you may not be able to reduce the rent below what the building needs to generate without, defaulting on a loan. The problem is with all, it's like so case specific, which I think what Doug was getting to is that sometimes like in certain cases, like Dan is actually correct, and some other people are right on, like, there may be one solution that could address like one storefront or a couple of them, but it's very difficult to find like an overarching reason. And then like what kind of stores are appropriate for the right type of places? And I mean, even we talk about rent. I mean, this is something I deal with, talking about the taxes, the property tax system is so screwed up in New York. And one of the largest growing portions of, what businesses are paying is the, building owners portion, or the commercial tenants portion of the overall building's property taxes. And that has continued to skyrocket. And like there's creative things where perhaps you could give like tax credits to certain commercial tenants to offset that portion of taxes that they pay, which could be a significant reduction, not directly in the rent, but kind of, because the rent is, it's kind of the big thing is paying the taxes. So like, yeah, I think, looking at different blocks, looking at like what would work. The other thing too is like, it's such a tough business, small business, like, why a lot of places close, like especially old places, like the kids, it's an immigrant owned family, business. And then, the kids, it's like the first generation, are going to college and they don't take over the family business. So there's just so many different reasons.
Seema, you had something to say?
Thank you.
I think what's difficult is, we all walk around the neighborhood and we see a bunch of empty stores. There might be a story behind each one, I'm sure there is, but, and there might be fewer vacancies than we think, but we're feeling it,
Sure.
right? And I agree with you that probably the biggest general trend shift is e-commerce, and how do you handle that as a retailer? That's something that we as a board are not gonna be able to solve, obviously. But I think whether it's data or something that cuts through our desire for intuition to drive the way is important. And then there are tons of policy things that have been out there. I agree with what Dan said, through the years about, and we might hate all of them, but I think they're worth taking a look at, if only to maybe spark some new ideas about what may actually be helpful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think this is a little bit unrelated, but sort of related in terms of walking around and seeing small businesses in neighborhoods. I think I've mentioned a lot of times in this committee, I really care about outdoor dining and like what we as community board members can do. And I think that given that we have a new city council speaker and a new mayor, I don't think that we're gonna get to the solution tonight, but I guess I want to propose for our next meeting that I would love to see CV7 be a leader on like the push for outdoor dining, right? Like I know we are not the lawmakers, but if
On
we
the
could,
what?
on a push to get outdoor dining. And I think if we start in February and we really put some muscle behind it in February, so that by the end of March, right? Like I just want us to use like every tool in our toolbox on this issue, because I think it, to the point that we're all discussing, like that's a big thing for small businesses is these outdoor dining, right? Like a lot of these tiny restaurants on the Upper West Side, they can sit 5 people inside, but they can seat another 15 to 20 outside, right? And those 15 to 20, you're tripling your coverage, right? So I just feel like if we could make next month's meeting, with the approval of the chairs, like if we could make, let me finish one thing.
Maybe Andrew could speak to that.
Yeah, and I would love Andrew to speak on it, but like, I know that a lot of the stuff kind of died with the council in December with obviously like a lot of bills, they don't get passed. So I would just love to like, if we could use the voice of this committee at the next meeting and really get it on the agenda and also use whatever muscle we have, whether that's having business owners come and talk about what's been difficult for them. I'm open to any suggestions. I just think that, unfortunately, like I feel like we should really use our time more constructively and figure out what we can do versus just like our thoughts on problems.
I would suggest if we do that, we need to have transportation involved, the transportation
Wait,
committee
can I ask
involved.
a clarification?
well.
Are you talking about sidewalk cafes or roadside?
All of it,
cafes?
right?
But-
So like there's a new transportation commissioner, there's a new
Yeah.
worker protection commissioner, there's gonna be new chairs of those council committees
Mhm.
in 5 minutes, if they haven't named them already. Like, there's a lot of things happening, and I just think that if we remind all the powers that be, that this is something that like is because I just feel like as a resident of the Upper West Side, like outdoor dining, I've just seen it. I mean, it's just anecdotal, but I feel like I've noticed such a difference of just walking around what you see outside, and to your point of like seeing vibrant storefronts. I think small restaurants are a huge part of that.
I think
So-
Miranda is spot on. And if you look at the neighborhood, so if you look at Lincoln Square, and the center and that whole area, if you look at Columbus in the 70s, Amsterdam in the 80s, Amsterdam in the hundreds, where there is a lot of restaurants and outdoor dining, what happens is it activates the street, because when people are visible on the sidewalk, in the roadway, it's activity happening, and people will then go to a retail shop, they'll go to a bookshop, they'll go to other areas, and it creates an energy and an excitement that attracts other stuff versus activity either being few and far between with vacant storefronts, or any type of economic activity only happening within side. That's good for inside, but it doesn't create the energy on the street. So I think our successful commercial corridors do have vibrant outdoor dining, and they have pretty good retail diversity if you compare them to other neighborhoods.
And I think outdoor dining just lends itself to that vibrance, right? Like I live near Bodega 88, and like I know that there's obviously some noise, whatever. It was a large operation, but I mean, all of a sudden, this very small restaurant took over the block, and people were watching sporting games. You're running into neighbors, right? Like that's really that neighborhood feel that I think makes the Upper West Side so special. And so I would just love if we could use our next meeting to, whether that's inviting business members to come talk about, what's been hard with them, if we can give lawmakers insight into what's been going on. I know they have their own hearings. I guess I'm just thinking about like ways that we can use our platform to uplift people who need to be kind of heard on this issue. So welcome to any ideas or anything that else. But I would love if we could really use our time next month.
All right,
constructively.
Yeah, I was just gonna
Makes
say
sense.
this has come up at the transportation committee conversations as well, and it's coming from a different perspective, from sort of who owns the right to the sidewalks, right? Is it the people, the neighbor who wants to walk his or her dog? Is it the person from out of town coming to a restaurant? Is it the neighbor? I think we all agree that we want, and I support the idea of
Yeah.
outdoor dining too. But I think if we do anything, I think if we're gonna come at it from a standpoint of like, we want more open dining, outdoor dining kind of stuff, I think it needs to be discussed in a fuller context of like the entire neighborhood too, because not everyone, I don't think everyone in this community district, speaking only from the transportation committee member in me, feels the same way, all the time.
I guess it's like that's sort of above our pay grade, right? Like the kind of like the kind of tension between
It's not, in my view, at all. I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's great
Yeah.
that like people wanna go and spend money at a restaurant, but I
Yeah.
think there are also people who are living and have, can't walk on
I
the
just
side
mean
of
from the standpoint
Columbus.
of like this committee, like I
No,
don't
no,
know
agreed,
that.
agreed, of course, and I personally think it would be better to have more outdoor dining and have it run better. But I do think when we get DOT involved, we only get so many bites at the apple with DOT, and we don't wanna be coming at them. One committee saying one thing and another
Hmm.
committee maybe.
Right, I mean,
saying
I feel like that's
something
kind of like can be worked out at full board. I guess I just sort of feel like if on this
Well, I think
committee.
outdoor dining, doesn't that come under the purview of the DOT?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so it does
absolutely.
not come under.
Well, that was the
purview
last,
of-
but that was a very recent thing that
Yeah,
Adam
it used to-
did.
it only- it
Wait,
used
let me
to only
finish
sit
that.
at this committee
Right.
before they did the change.
Can I just
Right.
finish what I
But
was saying?
taking what she
Sorry.
said, one.
Can I please
oh,
just finish
sorry.
really quickly?
Sorry.
Adams did that DOT and the business, like that was a 2023-2024 thing. That's not a historic thing. We don't know that it's going to continue under this council and this new mayor. So I'm on this committee to advocate for like small businesses and stuff, and like I'm not on the transportation committee because I don't understand transportation stuff. And I guess I just sort of like, I don't think we need to muddy the waters to really advocate for small businesses. And then we can let whatever issues will come with DOT later. Yeah,
Understood, but
that's
just to be clear, like when you were chairing the committee 10 or 15 years ago, when we approved a certain number of tables and a certain number of seats, that was DOT.
No,
Or was it,
No, it
what
That's
department was
consumer
it?
Consumer affairs, yeah.
Okay, so to your point,
They
then
don't
that,
handle that anymore.
okay, but until we don't know, I still think the issues of the streetscape, and if it is, maybe it starts within this committee and then we take it.
Yeah.
I mean, we know
to the
we
bigger-
know it'll become an issue. I guess I just sort of like, I don't feel like it's incumbent on us to get the ball rolling, to have them included at the very beginning, is my point.
All right,
Okay, then
I
we
think that what, your point of restaurants being a magnet for people who want to,
100%.
walk the avenue. I think that people are attracted to areas that are clean, on Columbus Avenue. It's a tree-lined avenue. It's beautiful. It's within the historic district, 100%. It's a low rise. It's non-threatening. It has a lot going for it. It has a lot of charm without anything, but if the poles and the street furniture have no stickers on them and things are painted on a regular basis and your tree guards are planted with things, that's what attracts people to neighborhoods. When you see people who don't pick up from their dogs, and that's a mess, like walking up Northern Broadway. And this is one of Alex's major pet peeves. He's a dog shit freak.
Wow, I don't know if you should
Yeah,
call
well,
someone
nobody
that.
likes it. I don't like it either, but I think that's one of the reasons that Alex wanted to start a bid. He can't stand the stickers that are all over the garbage cans and the poles, and nothing is painted and things are graffitied. When all that disappears, neighborhoods become much more inviting for people. And also when you install some lights, there's a feeling of safety.
Right.
So, and that's one of the things that restaurants do for
Restaurants
a
are great for
neighborhood.
that, yeah.
They bring a feeling of safety.
I think we haven't heard from the chef.
No,
Or
I'm,
from,
I'm listening.
Yes.
I'm listening to everybody. I really like Miranda's idea of getting started within the committee. And then we'll hear from other committees,
Eric, did you have?
because we can have a
I
little
mean,
better control.
What you're looking at, and Barbara brought it up too, is the Amazon thing, like, just, I mean, if you are someone who doesn't like empty storefronts, and if you're someone who doesn't like e-bikes, you have to stop ordering from Amazon and you have to stop ordering your food delivered. That's just a fact.
Mm.
And like, the more we can convince the community of that, the better off we're gonna be.
Not
but
gonna happen.
you know,
Yeah.
that's an issue that goes beyond
Yeah.
this
It
community,
Yeah,
does.
obviously.
Yeah, it really does.
All right, what,
I was just gonna say one thing that we didn't talk
and
about.
then, after you, Dan.
Oh,
let's
sure,
start.
sure. I was just gonna say one thing that I didn't mention, we didn't talk about yet, and it's a big factor, in my office is, retail theft. And
Yes.
many
Oh, God,
stores
yeah.
have closed in this neighborhood specifically
Right.
because of it. And I've been an advocate to, working with the DA's office, the NYPD, to do proper enforcement and it's a real thing. CVS on Broadway and 93rd closed almost exclusively because of retail theft.
Wow.
And if you don't have to look too far to go into a drugstore and you will see that your products are under lock and key.
Right.
And it is then a compounding effect because not only is the retail theft is there, then as a consumer, myself included, I go there and you have to press a button for every category. I want button for shampoo and button for toothpaste. And then people say, I don't have the time to do this. I'm just gonna order online and get it all delivered to me
Yeah,
tomorrow. This is a major problem and, it's a death by a thousand cuts, lots of different reasons for,
And then a smaller pharmacy won't move in because they heard the stories about the theft and they can't afford it.
well, pharmacy and also this
Yeah,
insurance reimbursement, but homelessness, mental illness, sanitation,
yeah.
these are all factors that anyone looking at.
Dan
Yeah,
had something
yeah.
to say?
Sure,
And then
I
we'll
mean,
talk-
I really take the point about the broader impacts of things outside our control locally, like the impact of Amazon on retail. My suspicion is what we're going to see is just like what's happening with the impact of AI, that there are going to be certain businesses that are going to be able to survive and thrive with AI competition because they do things that AI can't. So I think my sense is that we're going to see a similar progression in the retail sector where there are going to be more services and less retail.
That's right.
Or
outlets. But knowing that, right? That can factor into sort of how we approach the issue. But at the end of the day, I think having someone come in and talk about some of the more current policy initiatives that could help, rather than necessarily being punitive towards landlords, that would create a better financial incentive structure to keep tenants in storefronts or to fill existing storefronts. And what I was going to offer, Natasha, is that I will do a little research and suggest a couple of people that may be able to come in and do a presentation for us about some of the ideas that are circulating that might be most applicable to the Upper West Side, and that can help maybe jumpstart our thinking and lead us to support a couple ideas.
Sure.
That, again, not a magic bullet, but might make conditions better.
Great. Eric, did you?
Yeah, so, well, just to
And
the
then we'll wrap.
pharmacy thing, obviously this, I live at 87th in Amsterdam, there's a CVS at 86, right? And they have all the stuff locked up, and it's really annoying. But I can always just walk a block down to the Key Food to get my paper towels and my, my toilet paper without having to like buzz someone to come let me get it. So they're probably having a similar problem that people are stealing things from time to time, but they haven't taken the measure of putting everything behind a lock and key. I think it's just kind of a CVS, it's just doing it across the board,
Terrible.
right?
Terrible.
And then I wanted to ask about the dining, the outdoor dining. A huge fan of everything you said, and I would be a huge fan if you also said this. Do you mean the parking spots, like taking those over with the huts thing?
I think, well, I'll be
Really?
so honest, I'm not like the most well-versed in the exact policy. I think it's just that during COVID, a lot of rules were loosened.
Yeah.
A lot of businesses were thriving. Obviously, there were some, bad things that happened, like the rat, but I just think that from what I've read, a lot of these businesses were really screwed over. They were told to buy propane one day, then they outlawed
Mhm.
propane,
Yeah.
right? They were told to buy the shed, now there's nowhere to store that, now you have to take it down.
Mhm.
So I just feel like if next month we could have a resolution come out of this committee saying that noticing that there is a new mayor, everyone, everything, and their mother, we want them to pay attention to outdoor dining so that it's running smoothly by the summer and that CB7, I would just love just because I also think it's important, the news cycle, right? some blog will cover that we have this resolution and it will get eyes and people will be talking and other boards might follow suit and we can kind of just have this push that's not pointing knives at anyone, but really just saying that like we support this as a community board. That's what I would love to do next month.
Could you start a sketch, something out?
Sure, yeah, definitely.
I would just say-
And circulate around email.
I went to a restaurant in the West Village that still had one of the outdoor shed things. It was so nice. You know, not obviously recently. This was in, this was in the nicer weather months. But like, yeah, I mean, it is so nice and I'd way rather have that than 2 cars there.
Yeah,
you know?
I know that will be put back in this neighborhood. Listen, like, I'm not gonna phrase it like that because I know that that won't be so friendly in this neighborhood. I'm with you. But I want something that everyone will support and sign off on, so.
I'll be the bad guy then.
Okay.
I would
Is
just say,
there-
I mean, this is what I do a day in, day out. I could rattle
Yeah.
off, in an, 40 different policy changes the council could do, agencies could do, state government could do. That's easy. I could give you even memos at my organization, just I'd have to be in full transparency.
Yeah,
This
I'd
is
love
like
to
my
chat.
professional work, but I could, hand out all of those things. I would just say, I think we're looking at 2 different things. I think you're looking at, neighborhoods that have smaller spaces that you'd want to fill, and what do we want there, and what is that strategy? And then going on to the other areas of Broadway where you do have these large spaces that probably will not be filled by a large clothing retailer or a large big box store because the market is changing. Like we've gone to almost an exclusively, like I don't know what the percentage is, but probably 80% service economy. So, the big box retailer, maybe we'll get one here or there, but they're probably not going to take over all those spaces. But like I've thought, and I know because Doug and I have spoken about it, is the spaces, but there is no great, my daughter's a little older now, but like if you have younger kids, like urban air, like the trampoline parks, or reasonable places to host kids' parties. Like if you were to be able to open an urban air, which is a trampoline park, or like an amazing space for kids' parties, like bowling, activities, experiences that cross different generations that they can all use them. Like that's what people would want, Like I miss Amsterdam billiards so much. And that was like a little bit older, but I feel like some of those larger spaces on Broadway are really unique for experience, service, economy, businesses. But then it gets into the configuration of the buildings, which can pose, some challenges.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so just to wrap it up, because I think we all agree that we're not going to be solving this issue tonight. And I think we're all talking about the same thing, which ultimately is quality of life. Whether it's like you want more outdoor dining, or you want less trash on the streets, or you want less squatting along Broadway, that block immediately north of Cinderella, there's like a huge squatting community over there because it's just empty. So I think we're all ultimately talking about the same stuff. The reason why I brought this up is because the empty stores on Broadway are a real eyesore. I feel like other avenues in our neighborhood get a lot more love for all the reasons that you all said. Some of them are more, they're just configured differently. Columbus has, by historically it's had smaller spaces. West End is mostly residential, so that doesn't come under our purview. But we should also, so that's why my focus started from, these big spaces and what can we do, not necessarily to fill them up, because if they have been filled up, they would have already been filled up and we wouldn't have been having this conversation. But I really understand what Andrew brought up about the concept of anchors. Something like the Metro Theater, which may or may not open up in our lifetime, but at least,
Don't
it's a
say
good
that.
But I,
Advisory for it, they're doing
but,
pretty well.
speaking of, other people have also said that, a lot of things that are experiential are more likely to thrive in this economy. So for instance, on my street, there's that Pokemon card store. It is always so busy. And who would have thought that a card that does like, a store that does trading cards on 80th Street, you know, would do so well? Or like the Children's Museum, it's a museum and it's on the street, but and unfortunately, it's going to switch locations very soon. But I honestly feel that
Years
even though
away.
it's on
3
the,
or something.
it's on the street, you know, it is kind of an anchor because a lot of people who visit the museum then take their kids for lunch or go to Barnes and Noble or whatever, you know, it's like a whole outing day that they have. So, you know, this is still a work in progress. I hear what you've said, but at the same time, I also feel like this committee should also try to focus on non-food related businesses. Like most of the work that we do is about liquor licenses, which is for restaurants. But we have, like I said, you know, we have museums, we have theaters, there's a ping pong place on, I think it's on 100th Street, you know.
Ping pot, yeah.
There are so many other things, you know, gyms, hairdressers, florists, like these are also small businesses that need our attention. I don't know how we as a committee can help them. And one avenue that I had was to build relationships with the bids. Apparently, there's some controversy over there also, which I frankly do not understand. I think we're all aligned. We all want our communities to thrive and to be clean and to work together. So I don't understand why there would be a conflict over there.
What kind of controversy?
I don't know. I've been told that, for instance, not Lincoln Square bid, I don't know, doesn't want to come or thinks that there's some.
They've always been like.
They've always
Maybe what
been like
Dan
that.
said too about bringing people in, like, I think this is such a fantastic conversation, and like the small business owners in the neighborhood that are feeling frustrated, that have these challenges, like kind of often feel no one's out there advocating for them or supporting them. I know it's, you know, like maybe there's something we can do just to have a forum. It's always difficult to get them, but if we really, everyone took a little bit of effort just to go out and personally invite a couple of business owners, even if we could get 10 people in a room, just to be part of this conversation, and maybe we get the West Side Rag to come and check it out. And then all of a sudden, there's like an article in the neighborhood with, oh, Community Board 7, the BCI committee invited all of these local business, and there's this robust conversation. It just kind of like elevates it. And I feel maybe, you know, maybe we don't have to overthink it. Maybe if everyone on the board was like, I will go out and, you know, we'll make a flyer. I will go personally invite 5 small businesses. Remember back in the day, you were mentioning how with DCA, with the sidewalk cafes, we would actually assign members of the committee to go look at postings to go do that. And that was like the responsibility. So maybe we could try something, and I'll leave it to the.
Maybe we can
co-chairs to
post it
decide.
as a small business. I mean, that's what I was talking about with having a meeting about small business, the outdoor dining,
Yeah.
right? Like if we have, I mean, I understand you want to move away from food. I personally,
I don't want to move away from food. I
Yeah.
just feel like there's never been, I've never heard of the committee bringing any issue that is not food or drink related.
and we've done a lot with
We did,
cannabis.
we did
right?
a
And that's
business to
not
business
food.
networking series.
Yeah, which was a while ago. When
Which-
was the last?
And it
Oh,
was
it was
hugely,
long.
it was pretty
was
successful. I mean,
maybe
Andrew was a
7 years
speaker.
ago.
Yeah, it was like 7 years
We
ago.
had a
So
speaker.
we should do
I
it
think we
again.
should
I'm
resurrect
totally
it.
For it.
Yeah, I think
And to
that'd be
that,
cool.
we can invite all small businesses.
Yeah,
whether
I think
Food related.
What I was
whether
saying with the
it's a
outdoor
florist,
dining,
it's-
I think it'd be
like
really
anything,
impactful
you
to
know.
have some local business owners come to our meeting, have this stuff on the record in support of whatever efforts that we would like to do to strengthen outdoor dining. So Andrew, if you'd be like amenable, having that kind of stuff be part of next month's meeting, Natasha and Michelle, I mean,
Yeah.
I wanna kinda get the
guess
ball
we should
rolling,
talk about it,
because it's gonna be summer before we know
And
it,
we've had
right?
SBS here, Small Business Services.
That's right.
You know, and.
Yeah, I
we've
was
had
trying to get
banks.
somebody from there, but with the change in administration.
I guess I just want to kind of say, like, when we have someone from SBS come, it sometimes feels like we're getting an education versus it being like a useful thing of us doing things that benefit the community.
Hmm.
I just
Well,
want to like flag that.
When Jeffrey Garcia was here, which was really great, and I don't know, well, I hope he's gonna stay around. I think he was here also to tell all of the applicants what his services are, so we know it.
Yeah,
In, you know, the pre-inspections and really accelerating challenges that doesn't necessarily have to be restaurants. Obviously, it could be any business, but restaurants have a very comprehensive
Yeah.
list of challenges specifically, but
Right.
yeah, the business to business events that we did at
They
the
were,
American
yeah, those
Historical
were like,
Society.
we did them,
We had,
we
yeah,
did them at the hostel. That was like the first thing that I
Yeah, that's
did as
right.
chair. It was like,
Historical Society.
Andrew was a
and
speaker
the,
before he was a member.
American-
yeah,
Ethical culture.
ethical culture.
Mhm.
And then the American.
And I think
Museum of
hosting them
Art.
at a
Yeah.
place that is a small business could also be good. Like the one that we did at the hostel was interesting because a lot of people, we did it also, we tried to look at places outside, like north of,
Right.
you know,
Yeah, like we
96
were heading
in a lot of
toward
cases. Yeah,
Columbia University.
yeah, exactly.
I think if every committee member is responsible for going out and inviting 3 to 5 businesses and really work on trying to encourage them to get there, we could have a room and you just have a conversation like, hey, we're the local community board and we want to try to support you and hear what's going on. Like that's a great first step just to hear from the community board. Like we don't need to give them a speaker to tell them things. We don't need to tell them things. We just say, hey, we want to know what's going on. If you run a small business in our neighborhood, we want to hear all the great things about it. We want to hear the challenges about it. And we want to hear how you think the community board can help you. I think that's a great first step. And then what Miranda was saying, I think absolutely with the outdoor dining, I almost look at that as like,
A
it's
subset.
its own path on its own, but of course, in this
Yeah.
greater conversation, restaurateurs could come and share those concerns.
What's our goal for a timeline?
It's
for
hard
that?
to ask people who are working and
During
have
these
small
hours, right.
businesses to come and to hear
That was an issue.
during.
That was
You
very
know
true.
what? I think we just tell them, you know what? If people have to make time for things, I've just been doing this a long time. Like you got to tell people, like you can't complain and be worried about everything and then not be part of the process. I think people actually are craving. You have to be heard.
Mhm.
And I think we just need to be persistent with them. I think we need to do the outreach to them. And unfortunately, some people won't always be able to make it, but I think one meeting, could start. And then maybe we do another one if it's successful. And you could do them at different times. But, it's tough, but I would just say, just because we're worried about some people not being able to get out, we shouldn't let that interfere with us doing anything. Just my
Do we
opinion.
think there's any time to do that for next month's meeting with restaurants and focus on outdoor dining?
They're gonna talk about.
I
it,
don't
so.
know. We'll have to see how many, like,
How many applications?
how
we
many
have.
applications, because there
I
were, I
see.
think, 3 applications that were postponed to
I
next
think it may
month,
almost
and
be
then-
better to do it on a separate night.
Yeah, I agree.
I personally don't. I think that like having the committee and having it be a focus of our committee, like our meeting, like we just spent an hour talking about like, what do we do about empty storefronts? But we didn't have a resolution. We're not doing anything about it. Like,
But if we do have resolutions or we have something for next month,
Yeah,
there's no other place we can meet but here.
totally. I just think if we have one long meeting, we get a lot done. Like, I don't think that that's so bad. That's just my.
I'm just thinking that maybe like also, yeah, I mean, or if there were some sort of hook to get people. I guess they wouldn't mind coming to the board
Running
office, but
cheese.
no, trying to do, it doesn't even need to be that, but just doing something at a small business. Getting people out saying, get 67 Wines, I'll donate some stuff, or someplace we know will donate. We had no problem getting donations for things at stuff. I don't know. That might be too ambitious. I mean, if the goal is just to
Maybe
get
for
people in
next
a
month.
room, then yeah.
I cannot commit to something like that, but I can commit to working with like, some focus, something actionable, whether it's a resolution and also something more limited. I think anytime we open it up to a huge catch-all type discussion, which needs to result in a resolution, in my opinion, it hasn't really ever worked in a way.
So you want to start in
I see somebody-
committee and
Somebody in the audience. Somebody in the audience.
Lily
Who's
Wang.
that? Lily Wang, okay. I'm promoting Lily Wang to panelist.
Is there gonna be a department?
They're all have a chat.
Lily
Oh,
Wang,
who is it?
would you like to
Sam Levine,
speak?
he can-
Oh, it is Sam Levine. Oh,
You should unmute
so it's
yourself.
still called the same.
You can unmute yourself.
Consumer, so it's not DCA anymore. It's Consumer Work Protection.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't change.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
But the focus.
I was just thinking for the next meeting, as I'm listening to you all talk, and I was thinking about how, it's kind of known that the US is over retailed by like maybe 8 times compared to Europe. And, all the struggles with retail on Broadway and the big stores and the big footprints. But the ones that seem to be successful are the more service oriented, like the experiential companies, businesses, and maybe that would be maybe a focus for the next meeting, just like instead of just kind of blindly going after business, like maybe just start to think about what kind of business really is more viable.
Can I respond to that?
Sure.
And,
So I mean,
on the
so,
Upper West
you know,
Side.
obviously this is my job career, so what, we're saying what we want to see in the neighborhood, which is great, and hopefully the neighborhood will support whatever businesses, but I assure you that behind the retail leasing signs, the brokers, the landlords, the consultants, the GIS teams, we're already doing that. We have weekly meetings, what we call TIMs, which are tenants in market. We're tracking retailers who are coming in from Europe and Asia that are moving within the United States, the different types of categories, the service oriented, the experiential, the F&B. So it's like, yeah, I mean, get your real estate license, come work for us and actually do it. Because like, unless there's some legislation or reform that was otherwise prohibiting that use, which is something we could get behind, I assure you that all tenants in market are being pursued.
But Doug, I think there's somewhat of a parallel here between the whole conversation around repurposing offices into residential that came out of COVID, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's an opportunity here, and I understand what you're saying, but there may be structural impediments for landlords to attract these kind of tenants because of the configure, like Andrew was saying, the configuration of the space. But if there was a concerted effort, right, like this is what the best of public policy is identifying public problems that the market can't solve on its own, and making it a priority. And that's what the mayor did with this conversion program for commercial office space into residential. So I think it might be worth exploring, ideas that would make it easier to convert these spaces to experiential businesses, and maybe have the city invest, because like Andrew was saying, that's a public good for the community that would have a positive ripple effect, not just filling the storefronts, but drawing out particularly families with kids.
Yeah, if I may just respond, because.
Yeah, and then we have
yeah.
to wrap it up.
So on the experiential, like many of those tenants, whether they're rock climbing walls or gymnasiums or trampolines or whatever it is, which are really fun and exciting concepts, they're experiential, they're wonderful for families. If a space doesn't have a physical infrastructure because it was built a long time ago with not, with those type of tenants or even retail in mind, because new buildings that are built, they're built differently. We can't take out structural columns that would cost $100 million to do. If it physically can't work. So I don't know what policy we could institute to change the physical, mechanical structure of a property if it just doesn't physically work. If it was otherwise prohibited, and there have in the city of Yes, there have been some loosening up of the zoning that will now allow certain uses that were formerly prohibited. That's a good thing. But I don't know physically, but this is all worthy to discuss.
Yeah.
All right, so I think we will, a lot of ideas have been floated around over here. I think Michelle and I will go and try to come up with something a little more focused for next month. But thank you, everybody, for this discussion.
Thanks, everyone. Great conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good night.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.